first ULI Asia Pacific Thought Leadership webinar. We, we hope you'll enjoy these short snapshots of topical issues in our industry. To kick off the series, we are delighted to have Henry Bott, co-founder of Blueprint and current project manager for Swire Properties Digital Team. Blueprint is a tech-focused co-working space and accelerator program for B2B startups. Over to you, Henry.
Stephanie said, my name's Henry. I've worked for Swire for about 6 years now, and I was one of the co-founders on Blueprint, which we're going to be talking about today. And just to reiterate again, it's a tech-focused co-working space and 6-month accelerator program for B2B startups. And it's located in Taikoo Place, over 2 floors in one of Swire Properties' older industrial buildings, Cornwall House. And really over the last sort of 18 months, Blueprint has helped to both grow early stage companies who have been struggling for survival in an environment of very high occupancy costs in Hong Kong. And at the same time, it's really allowed Swire to connect with the next generation of entrepreneurial talent and technologies that may end up shaping the future of our business. So I'll start with a brief bit of background about how Blueprint came about, then move on to a bit of sort of introduction to the composition of the space, so the 2 key components being the co-working space and the accelerator program. I'll then share one of the success stories from the accelerator program, and then finally just wrap up with some thoughts on the growing trend in demand for flexible workspace that I've seen globally, but also in Hong Kong over the last couple of years. So yeah, the Blueprint started as all these things do with an idea. So in late 2013, the then CEO of Swire Properties, Martin Cubbon, established a digital task force, which was really all of the heads of department within Swire Properties, with the objective to monitor new trends in digital technology and discuss how they could be adapted to benefit our business. And some of the management trainees at the time were invited to participate in this task force and share their ideas. And at that time, myself and another former trainee, we knew there were these 2 vacant floors in Cornwall House. And we knew as well that Cornwall House, along with the other industrial buildings in Taikoo Place, Warwick and Somerset, were all part of a redevelopment program that was going on. Will be completed in around 2020. So this building, Cornwall House, was slated for demolition in early 2017. And we thought, rather than use these 2 floors for just storage, which is what they were slated, what they want to use for, why not come up with something a bit different? So we came up with the idea to create an internal innovation lab that would become a venue for new ideas and experimentation within the company. And we were very aware of accelerators and co-working spaces in the US and the UK. So we spent about 5 months in early 2014 researching the startup scene in Hong Kong. And the conclusion that we came to was that the whole sort of tech ecosystem in Hong Kong was very fragmented. You've got sort of various different players, whether they're investors or startups or the government or business, all sort of trying to do their own thing, but not really coordinating in any sort of way. We also noticed that a lot of the current co-working spaces, of which there were only about 8 at the time, had pretty average design. They weren't particularly inspiring places to work in. And overall, there was just a sort of lack of real meaningful support for startups in Hong Kong. So in June 2014, we pitched this proposal to Martin, the CEO, to transform this vacant space in Cornwall House into a dedicated hub for startups that had 2 key components. The first one being the co-working space for anyone who was working on a technology-related project, and the second being a 6-month accelerator program for the best 10 B2B startups that we could find. And we decided that a suitable name for it should be Blueprint. So if we start with the accelerator portion is the upper of the 2 floors. And this was launched in January last year. And it's a 6-month program designed to do exactly that. It's designed to accelerate the growth of these early stage companies by providing support in 3 key areas. The first one being access to individual mentors. So these are people who can deliver tailored coaching and advice. And we've got a network of about 70 mentors at the moment roughly 50% sourced from within Swire, so Swire Group executives, and then also 50% external. So these are people from Google, Tesla, GoPro. They may be entrepreneurs themselves, but the point being that we can match them with the startups on our program to deliver that tailored advice. The second area of support is corporate partners. So within Taikoo Place, we have about 300 corporate tenants, and we identified and recruited one from within each sort of business vertical. So one for legal, one for accounting, one for cloud computing. And the agreement was that these corporate partners would provide free or preferential rate services to the startups on our program. And that was quite important because that's the sort of the practical business services that the startups need to really get their business off the ground. And then thirdly, investment. So if the startups needed funding, we can facilitate introductions to venture capital firms or angel investors, but we, Swire, do not invest ourselves. And I think that's quite a key differentiator of our program, whereas most accelerator programs either charge for admission or they take an equity stake in these companies. For us, we decided not to do that, and there's a reason for that. We always get asked, why? What's in it for Swire? You're not getting anything out of it. But it was really just a chance to use space that was going to be underutilized anyway, to really connect with this network of entrepreneurial talent and bring a lot of innovative thinkers down to Taikoo Place and incubate them under our own roof. And it's also generated a lot of great PR value as well because of the CSR angle. So those are the three areas of support, but also another key differentiator is the connections to the Swire Group that the Accelerator program can provide. So we can help connect these B2B startups into cafe or to Swire hotels or into Swire beverages or into shipping. And that's a hugely appealing part of the program for these startups, the chance to get their foot in the door with these companies who hopefully end up becoming customers themselves. So far, we've had 31 teams join the program, so 11 in the first cohort, which ran from January to June last year, 10 in the second, from July to December last year, and now we've got 10 on the current cohort. And each round so far, each round of 6 months, has had about 150 applications, so it's been pretty competitive. And there's loads and loads of interesting companies that we've seen come through the program, but one perhaps which has been the most successful and perhaps most relevant for the property industry is a company called Snagger, SNAGR. Now, Snagger have developed a software platform for the construction industry, which is accessible on any device, any mobile device, and allows property developers and contractors to upload all of the architectural and MEP plans for a building onto a shared platform. And then during the defect rectification process, once the building is completed, inspection teams can use the mobile device to take photos of defects, which then automatically sync to the exact location on the plans within the portal. And then following the inspection, contractors, subcontractors, developers can log in separately and agree on sign off on the various rectification items. So it's very good for project management. You can track exactly which defects are being rectified, how quickly they're being, or slowly they're being rectified. And also you can build up a huge amount of data on various contractors and materials. So for example, what percentage of glass ended up cracking, or what was the average length of time that one subcontractor took to rectify defects. So this is really useful information which you can store and then use to evaluate future tenders. And Swire Properties actually piloted Snagger's platform in 2 recent projects. So one being the Taikoo Place service apartments in Tong Trong Street, and then secondly on 100 Kane Road, which is now called Elasio, which is a residential project. So it was great to be able to provide those real market testing opportunities for one of the startups. Swire Beverages are actually also a customer now, and they're using the platform for health and safety monitoring in their bottling plants in China. So that's the Accelerator. Now, just moving on to the co-working space, which is sort of ancillary to the Accelerator. It sits on the floor below. This is run on a membership basis where members pay a subsidized monthly fee in return for a desk, access to communal facilities such as Wi-Fi, printing, meeting rooms. They get free coffee, which is also always a huge draw for these startups. They love the free coffee. And it's really the main thing is the access to the community. So it's a chance to access a community of people who are all working on similar projects. And I think that curated theme around tech is really important because it means there's relevance for everyone who works in the space, and it increases the chance for those potentially serendipitous collisions every day, whether it's making a coffee or just overhearing someone talking about a service that they'd like to use. I think that's the real value in the space. But the key sort of difference between this and the Accelerator is that we don't provide any structured support. We just provide the desk and the power, and then they get on with their own stuff. So we don't comment on the quality or the viability of their business model. That's saved for the Accelerator upstairs. So the co-working space was launched in December 2014, and by February 2015, it was fully occupied. It's currently got about 140 members across 65 different companies. So quite a lot going on down there. I'll just move on to a quick word about the design now, because I think that's been one of the most appealing parts of the co-working space and of the whole space for the people who work there. So because Blueprint, the project, was only ever meant to have a 2-year lifespan in its current location, we were quite conscious to limit the impact on the environment as well as limiting the cost. We didn't want to be seen to be spending huge amounts of money on new materials. So what we did was we went out to a lot of the Swire group companies and sourced materials that were otherwise being discarded or thrown away, and sort of upcycled them and gave them a new lease of life by incorporating them into the design of Blueprint. So we've got plain seats from Cafe, which are used as pantry lounge chairs. We've got a lot of the light fittings were sourced from our ship engineering dockyard in Qingyi, HUD dockyard. All of the tabletops are made out of recycled Coca-Cola cartons from Swire Beverages, and most of the office furniture was pilfered from HSBC after they vacated their City Plaza office. So basically, it was just great to give all of these sort of old items a new lease of life, and it really sort of kept the cost down as well. And then we were very lucky as well to get 2 sort of key corporate partners to sponsor key aspects of the place. So one being Cisco, who sponsored all of the Wi-Fi hardware, so all of the AP points. And then the second being Schneider. Schneider Electric are an energy management company, and they sponsored all of the climate control and the lighting control hardware. So it's all done by motion sensor. So when there's no one in the space, all of the AC and the lighting turns off. So it's actually quite energy efficient. I think what was so great was the enthusiasm that these large companies like Cisco and Schneider had for the project. I think they perhaps are involved with innovation projects or programs in other countries or other jurisdictions, but for whatever reason haven't had the chance to get involved with one in Hong Kong, and this was sort of a ready-made opportunity for them to do that. So that's Blueprint, but I think being involved with Blueprint the last 2 years, I've seen a huge proliferation of co-working spaces in Hong Kong, and I think that's reflective of a growing trend globally. In Hong Kong, at the end of 2013, there were 8 co-working spaces. There are now over 40 today. So it's been a huge growth that we've seen there. I think that there's 3 sort of key reasons that I've identified for this huge growth. One being the flexibility. So, in a city of particularly high occupancy costs like Hong Kong, entrepreneurs, startups, independent workers, SMEs, they don't want to or can't commit to 3-year leases and can't afford necessarily the initial capex required to fit out conventional office space. So the flexibility is a really sort of key issue. And actually, I saw yesterday CBRE have come out with a report saying that spaces in traditional offices, are in use on average only about 50% of the working week. So there's an efficiency issue there as well. Secondly, the design. We've done a lot of feedback surveys from the members of the co-working space, and the key point, the top of the list that they always come back saying is the most appealing, is the quirky design. I think that there's lots of little sort of gimmicky items around that are quite humorous, and it's also sort of very aesthetically pleasing, relaxing space to be in. So then that connection to the physical space and allegiance to the brand has really helped sort of further anchor the community spirit amongst the Blueprint members. And then again, finally, the community point. So the chance to meet people who are working on similar projects and going through similar pain points like most startups suffer as well. For Swire, I think that the key benefits again have been attracting this network of innovative thinkers down to Taikoo Place. It's also been a great source of tenant engagement. So a lot of the tenants in Taikoo Place have been very interested in what's going on in Blueprint. They've been very keen to get involved with events that we've run or become mentors to the startups. And then thirdly, I think it goes a long way to enhancing the community building reputation of Swire. So everyone knows Swire are quite sort of traditional. They look to the long term, and they really try and build communities around the buildings that they create. So I think just moving on to sort of the global trend and my sort of thoughts on that. I mean, one of the major architects in this global trend is a company called WeWork. Now, if you haven't heard of WeWork yet, you certainly will soon. They are currently the largest and most successful co-working space operator in the world, and they're really sort of redefining how people occupy workspace. The company is currently valued at $16 billion, and they were the largest lessee of office space in New York in 2014, and were the largest lessee of office space in London in 2015. They have 77 locations now globally, and by the end of this year expect to have 200. So they're growing massively quickly. But it's interesting that people are split over how sustainable this business model is. The eye-watering crazy valuation implies that its office space is worth around $3,000 per square foot, which is roughly 400% more than the value of any comparable office space in New York or San Francisco. And obviously their business model, how do they make peace with the fact that they lock themselves into long-term leases in the buildings in which they lease space, but their revenue is dependent on a monthly membership fee. So, and that's something that they need to sort of make peace with. It's quite strange to me. But what's undeniable, I think, about the point about WeWork and all co-working space operators is that they've layered on real benefits to small companies. So they have an internal app-based social network that facilitates service sharing and networking. They provide access to discounted healthcare, accounting, legal services, and they offer flexible conference spaces for client meetings. So just in the same way that Uber, Airbnb, and Netflix have disrupted their fields, I think WeWork represent the disruption of the shared economy on commercial office space. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it about Blueprint and sort of the rise of the co-working trend in general. I think just to wrap up about Blueprint, since January 2015, Blueprint's really built a tech community in an already very vibrant business district such as Taikoo Place. And it's really given Swire Properties a first look at the best startup talent in Hong Kong, people who are working on ideas and technologies that could really end up shaping or disrupting or affecting our business in the future. And it's also helped these early stage companies take their business to the next level. I think of the first two cohorts that have been through already, the total combined money or investment raised is about $4 million. And they've all hired new people. They've all moved out. Ones who have been particularly successful have moved out of Blueprint and ended up leasing conventional office space. So there are real sort of tangible examples of growth there. And then for Swire internally, Blueprint's really become a sort of source of internal innovation and pride amongst staff. People want to use the meeting rooms of Blueprint for breakout sessions or training days for their own internal departments within Swire Properties. It's also been a very productive and community-enhancing use of underutilized space that was just otherwise going to be used for storage. And again, it's really helped Swire Properties, I think, cement its reputation as a commercial developer that's committed to building and nurturing communities, not just financial gain. So yeah, that's the Blueprint story. Thanks very much for allowing me to share it. And I think if you have any questions, you send them to Stephanie, and then she can coordinate them and pass them on to me. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Henry, for the presentation. Yes, again, of course, if you have any questions, please email them to me. More information about Blueprint will also be featured in the next ULI Asia Pacific newsletter. In addition, probably within the next 3 months, ULI will be organizing an event at Blueprint, so stay tuned for that. All ULI members joining this webinar will receive a link with the recording. If you're not a member yet, please sign up. You can learn more about us on our website. So thank you again and have a wonderful afternoon, everyone. Bye.